The day I opened my eyes to a world that seemed to have turned its back on me, I realized for the first time what true silence felt like. Not the peaceful, comforting silence of a quiet morning, but the heavy, suffocating kind that sits on your chest and whispers that you are all alone. One moment I was someone people applauded, admired, trusted. And the next, I was nothing more than a headline in the digital universe. Twisted, exaggerated, and shared by strangers who had never met me but felt fully qualified to judge me. I remember looking at my reflection that morning, my face puffy from a night spent crying, my hair tangled, my eyes swollen and red. I didn't recognize the woman staring back at me. Her expression wasn't fear. Fear would have been easier. It was a hollow mixture of shock and grief, the kind that comes when your world collapses in ways you never imagined possible. The cancellation hit fast and violently, a storm that ripped through every corner of my life. My phone buzzed with messages I wished I had never read. People I once trusted quietly distanced themselves. Doors that had always been open to me suddenly slammed shut. The world didn't ask if I was guilty, or if the accusations were even real. It simply chose a narrative, and I became the villain in a story written by people who enjoyed watching others fall. The first week felt like drowning. Not the dramatic kind where you struggle loudly and scream for help, but the silent kind, where you sink slowly unnoticed, while everyone watches from the shore. I disconnected from everything. I deleted apps. I muted chats. I stopped going outside. My home became a shelter, a hiding place, a cave where I convinced myself I was safe from judgment. But in truth, I wasn't safe from the one enemy I couldn't escape: my own thoughts. Every night, I replayed the accusations in my mind, over and over, like a punishment I believed I deserved. I questioned myself. I questioned my worth. I questioned whether I would ever be able to rebuild anything from the ashes left behind. The worst part wasn't what people said. It was that a small part of me started believing them. That tiny whisper in my mind told me that maybe I wasn't good enough, maybe I wasn't strong enough, maybe I deserved the storm that had swallowed me whole. Days blurred into nights. Sleep felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. Food lost its taste. I disconnected from the world because the world had already disconnected from me. No one prepares you for the loneliness that comes after public judgment. No one tells you that survival requires not only strength, but relentless courage. And no one tells you that rebuilding starts not with forgiveness from others, but with forgiveness from yourself. One afternoon, after what felt like the 100th day spent hiding in darkness, I stepped outside. The sunlight stung my eyes, sharp and unwelcome. The air felt too fresh, too gentle for someone who had spent months breathing nothing but anxiety and sorrow. I walked aimlessly, each step heavy but somehow liberating. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I needed to keep moving. I ended up at a small park. Children played freely, their laughter echoing in the wind. Parents watched with soft smiles. People walked, dogs jogged, chatted, lived. And it struck me how life continued for everyone else. Even though mine had felt frozen in time. I sat on a bench, hugging my arms around myself, feeling both invisible and painfully exposed. And that's when something unexpected happened. A little girl dropped her bright yellow ball near my feet. She looked at me with the kind of innocent kindness adults often lose with age. "Can you give it to me?" she asked. I picked up the ball and handed it to her. She smiled, a genuine, warm smile. "Thank you," she said before running back to her friends. That tiny interaction cracked something open inside me. For months, I had felt like the world saw me as a monster. But that little girl saw me simply as a person. Someone who could be trusted to return a ball. Someone who wasn't defined by rumors or hate. Someone who still mattered, even if only in a small way. That moment didn't change everything, but it changed something. And sometimes, something is enough to start again. I went back home that day and sat in front of my mirror again. This time, I saw the same tired woman, the same swollen eyes, but behind them I saw a faint spark. A spark I thought I had lost forever. I took a deep breath and said out loud, "You are not finished." My voice cracked, but it was a beginning. I started rebuilding with the smallest of steps. I wrote in a journal, pouring out every broken thought, every fear, every memory of pain. I allowed myself to feel everything I had buried. I reached out to the few people who had not vanished when things fell apart. I talked. I cried. I listened. And slowly, I learned to breathe again. Healing wasn't pretty. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't quick. There were days I woke up feeling like I had moved mountains, and days I felt like dragging myself out of bed required superhuman strength. But the difference now was that I kept trying. I refused to let the narratives others created become the truth I lived. Months passed. The storm quieted. People moved on to their next drama, their next target, their next trending scandal. And I remained, not destroyed, but transformed. I took classes, learned new things, started new projects. I rebuilt my career piece by piece. I redefined my identity not by what had happened to me but by who I chose to become. The woman who once hid from the world slowly learned to stand in front of it again. Not seeking approval, not fearing judgment, simply existing on her own terms. I became braver, softer, stronger, wiser. I discovered that resilience isn't about pretending everything is okay. It's about surviving the moments when nothing is okay and choosing to move forward anyway. I met people who saw me for who I truly was, not the version others had painted. I formed deeper friendships. I built healthier boundaries. I learned that losing everything doesn't always mean the end. Sometimes it is the beginning of a life more authentic than the one before. 1 year later, I returned to the same park. I sat on the same bench. The world felt different now. Not because it had changed, but because I had. I breathed deeply, feeling the sunlight warmly touch my skin. This time it didn't sting. It felt like a blessing. A reminder that even after the darkest storms, the sun still rises. I watched people living their ordinary lives, and instead of feeling disconnected, I felt part of it again. A gentle, steady part. Not desperate for validation. Not afraid of judgment. Simply present. Simply alive. And in that moment, I understood something I had never known before. I wasn't canceled. I was reborn. My journey back wasn't about proving the world wrong. It was about proving to myself that I could rise, even when everything around me tried to bury me. I had been pushed to the edge, broken into pieces, abandoned at my lowest. But I had survived. I had rebuilt. And I had emerged not weaker, but unshakably stronger. I walked home that day with my head held higher than it had been in a long time. Not because the world finally accepted me, but because I finally accepted myself. I learned that resilience grows quietly, like a seed buried deep underground. It pushes upward slowly but surely, until one day, it breaks through the dirt and reaches for the light. I realized that I was no longer the woman who cried alone in the dark. I was the woman who fought her way back into the light. The woman who learned that her worth was never defined by public opinion. The woman who discovered that true strength is not loud or aggressive. It is gentle, steady, and unshakable. I had been canceled, but I had not been crushed. And I never would be.